Hello everyone, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first short story in the anthology that we're currently reading through, Dangerous Visions by Harlan Ellison. And the first short story is by Lester Del Rey. Lester Del Rey is a Golden Age science fiction writer, and he is known specifically for being the editor, he and his wife, Judy Lynn, of the fantasy and science fiction imprint of Ballantine Books, Del Rey Books. I grew up reading Del Rey books. Anytime you see a Del Rey book, it is named after Lester Del Rey, and he was the editor of many of those early Del Rey books. His story in this anthology is actually very short, just a couple of pages. And while I was doing research on him, just to kind of see who he was, I came across the wiki article, and it had a strange section to it. The first part just talked about what I've already gone over. He wrote a lot of science fiction during the Golden Age especially, and he was the editor for Del Rey Books. But then it has another section that talks a little bit about his name. And it says that Lester Del Rey often claimed his name was Ramon Felipe Alvarez Del Rey. But later his sister came forward and confirmed that he was actually born Leonard Knapp. And this is a section on Wikipedia that says that's just about his name. But underneath that, it says Lester Del Rey also often claimed that his entire family died in a car crash in 1935, when in reality it was only his first wife that died in the car crash. I don't know what this means. I've never seen this on a wiki article. It seems like Wikipedia is like really calling out Lester Del Rey. I don't know if he went around claiming that he lost children in this car accident. I know that he has an even longer version of this Spanish name that he claims is his original name, his birth name, but it seems like Wikipedia is like right at the beginning really calling out Lester Del Rey, and I don't know why. It goes against a lot of what Harlan Ellison says at the beginning of the story. One of the great things about this particular anthology, Dangerous Visions, that we're going to go through story by story, is that Harlan Ellison talks about each story before the story, and it's really interesting. In fact, some of my favorite Harlan Ellison stuff to read is not his fiction, although I do love his fiction, but his writing about just his life and his time in the science fiction community. He's a great writer, and he talks about the fact that he put Lester Del Rey in this anthology right here at the beginning. And that was an interesting question to me, because this is supposed to be Harlan's attempt at a revolution against the Golden Age. It is interesting to me that he starts right off the bat with a Golden Age writer. And he kind of explains why Lester Del Rey is included in this anthology right at the beginning. And what he says is, number one, Lester Del Rey has done more for science fiction than many, many other science fiction writers. And number two, he reveals that they were actually pretty close. Apparently when Harlan Ellison left school, I don't know if he was expelled or he quit, but he left school and moved to New York in 1955. And when he got into New York, Lester Del Rey and his wife took in Harlan Ellison. And Lester Del Rey kind of became a mentor to Harlan Ellison and taught him a lot of the craft of writing science fiction. So it's obvious from this prologue to the story of Evensong that Harlan really respected Lester Del Rey and wanted him to be in this. He also tells a story that Lester Del Rey was the last story he received for this anthology, even though it's the first story in the anthology. And he tells a story that that Lester Del Rey said he'll have it to you, and he'll have it to Harlan in a couple of weeks. But then Harlan never received it, and a year later he saw him at a convention and said, "Where's the story?" And Lester claims that he sent it a long time ago, and he thought Harlan received it and didn't want it, and that was why the silence. And I wonder, and this is all conjecture from here on out, this is conjecture on my part, but I wonder if Harlan put a lot of pressure on Lester Del Rey in this specific instance to say, "Hey, I'm super excited to write this revolutionary book, and you were to edit this legendary anthology, and you were my mentor, and I want you to be the first story in the book." And Lester Del Rey might have felt a little bit of pressure there to really write something very, very revolutionary. And that's hard, just at a drop of the hat, to be like, "Hey, write something revolutionary." So maybe Harlan was putting more pressure than he realized on Lester Del Rey. Between Harlan writing about Lester and Wikipedia writing about Lester, I don't feel like I can really know him that well. There's especially no way to judge him as a human being from just what I've read, but he seems very much like an interesting person. I hope to read a little bit more of his stuff as time goes on. So he included this Golden Age science fiction writer in Dangerous Visions, which kind of shocked me. And then I was even more surprised to learn that the book that I was reading before this one, the Science Fiction Hall of Fame, which is all of the best stories representing the Golden Age as decided by the science fiction writers of America, has a story by Lester Del Rey. I don't know if he's the only one, but so far he is, that is in both of these very important anthologies. Lester Del Rey is in both of them. He wrote a story in this one called Helen O'Loy, which I was not planning on making a video about because I didn't do every story in this one. I just did the ones that really stuck out to me. But now that I'm going to do this one and it's so short, I'll also talk a little bit about Helen O'Loy when I'm done talking about the one in Dangerous Visions. All right, the story. This is an interesting, quick little story. It's told from the perspective of some kind of alien being that is able to fly through space with absolutely no issues, that is timeless, has been around for millennia, it seems like, or for all time, who knows. He's interacted with many planets. He's tried to take care of the life on many different planets. But when this story opens, it is running away from what he calls the usurpers, which are an alien species that have spread from one planet to all over the galaxy. And their technology is such that when their technology touches any part of the galaxy, it stops this being from being able to power up. And the way that this being takes in power is through suns. So this being is running away, trying to get away from these usurpers, and lands, that's a weird thing to say, heads to the only planet that doesn't show any existence of the usurpers. And it goes down to this planet and is exploring and using its consciousness to look for life around the planet, and it can only find animal life. And the being is super surprised that this planet specifically is the only one that doesn't have the usurpers on it, nor the usurpers' technology. And it realizes that this is the home planet of the usurpers. And we learn that this being had a real connection to and interacted a lot with the usurpers when they were confined to just this planet. Really bold choice to tell the story from the perspective of this this being floating through space. But it's beautifully done. It really works well. I had to read this 2 or 3 times just to really let it sink in. It's such a short read that I do highly recommend you read it. Give it a read. It's a good time. I am going to move on to spoiling the story. So if you don't want this story spoiled for you, it's a quick read. You could pause this video, read it in 3 minutes, and come back and watch this. Yeah, if you don't mind spoilers, go ahead and keep watching. So it's on the planet that used to be the Usurpers' planet, and the Usurpers have been able to track it, and they land on the planet, and they walk right up to this being, and the being is terrified and wants to get away from these Usurpers. And they say, hey, you can't be here. This is an important place to us. We have created a space for you. We know where we're going to put you. And you need to come with us right now, and come to this place we've prepared for you. And in rage and anger, the being says, "But I am God." And the scouts that are forcing the being to come with them look a little sad, and then they say, "Yes, but we are man. Now come with us." And the being kind of bows, it says in the book. It kind of lowers its head and follows these people to the prison that they've prepared for it. In the afterword, which is written by Lester Del Rey, grudgingly it seems, he didn't really want to write an afterword. He believes strongly that fiction should stand on its own, which I can agree with, but it is still really fun to hear a writer talk about their story. I like that just as much. In it, he says that this is an allegory. It ends with a line that that morning and that evening was the 8th day. And I like that kind of connection. If it is an allegory, I'm having a bit of a hard time understanding exactly what he was trying to say. And that's only because I think it's from the perspective of the God being. So is he saying that science and technology traps God and makes God unable to be an aspect of humanity, something that we have to cage in and put away? Or is he saying that God exists, but man must turn their backs on him? There's so many different ways that this can go that I felt it was a little bit, for me, too vague. I would have liked if Lester Del Rey would have been just a tiny bit more specific with exactly what he wanted this allegory to do or say. I guess what I wanted is to know what the point of mankind doing this was, right? Why were they working so hard to track down this being that seems like all it wanted to do was get away? Why were mankind working so hard to track down this being? What is the allegory? What's the point? Just to imprison it. It doesn't seem... I can't find any motive for why man's doing this, nor can I come up with an analogous concept in my head. Maybe we created God, so we have to destroy God, or God created us and we have to, there's, every child has a rebellious stage. I don't know. None of it works because it's allowed me too much free range to try to figure it out. And that means this story might really work for people that want to imbue writing with their own interpretations of it, which is fun. I love doing that. And I do that a lot. But I do like a little textual evidence that can push me into a direction. And I just felt like with the humans, I had no textual evidence. I had no idea why they were doing this. So the story fell a tiny bit flat for me on that aspect. Still, I enjoyed it. It's a great opening to this anthology that Harlan Ellison wanted to be so revolutionary. All right, let's talk about Helen O'Loy, which I didn't plan on talking about, but then the minute that I saw that he had also written in a story in this book, I was actually kind of excited because I really feel like these two go well together. So this is just another aspect of how we can look at the two of them. The story Helen O'Loy, I actually did enjoy. In fact, I think I enjoyed it more than the one in Dangerous Visions. It's a much more straightforward story. The reason that I didn't talk about it specifically on this channel, that I left it off with a lot of the other ones from this book, is because I think now it is a bit of a trope. What Helen O'Loy's about, and of course Helen O'Loy is a great title. It's a pun on Helen of Troy, and also Helen Alloy, and it's about a woman that is mechanical. These two mechanics create a woman, and they create her just to be a little bit too real, and it is about the terror that people feel when they're faced with robots that are just almost too real. They're so human that it's very difficult to tell them apart from humans. There is a terror within us, I think, about that. And the robot falls in love with one of them, and that mechanic hates the idea and fights, and then eventually has to admit that he is in love with the robot, and they go off together and live a happy life. They age the robot so that it looks like she's aging with him, and then this is all going to be spoiler from here on out. He eventually dies, and Helen O'Loy asks to be decommissioned, turned off, so that she can hopefully spend eternity with her husband. It was beautiful. It was sentimental. It was romantic. It just seems like a trope that's been overdone to death. But I think when it was written at the time, I don't think it was an overdone trope. I think it was something new. And it must have been, because they were very picky about the selection process in this book. And his was one of the ones, and this one was specifically selected. So that means it was probably really groundbreaking at the time. Overall, Lester Del Rey has not shocked me with how good he is yet. I will have to read some more of his because a lot of people swear by him. But for me, Helen O'Loy was very enjoyable to read. This one was quick and a little bit vague. The one in Dangerous Visions. So yeah, if you know any really great Lester Del Rey, if you love Lester Del Rey, if you could let me know what stories you think I should check out, I would really appreciate it. That way I can dive into his work a little bit more. All right, the next writer that we're going to be reading in Dangerous Visions, which is edited by Harlan Ellison, is Robert Silverberg, and the name of the story is Flies. Now, the interesting thing about Robert Silverberg being the second writer in this anthology is that he is the editor of this anthology. So again, we see a connection between these two books. And now we're going to read a story by the editor of this book in this groundbreaking anthology. So if you'd like to read along, go ahead and read Flies by Robert Silverberg for the next video, which should be out in about a week. And let me know what you think about it in the comments. All right, if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe, as we're going to be putting out a lot more of it. Thank you so much for watching to the end.